All right, let's get right into the thick of it because the tape is telling a story that the mainstream financial media is absolutely terrified to cover right now. We are witnessing a systemic decoupling that hasn't been seen in the history of modern commodities trading. While the talking heads on television are trying to convince you that the economy is on a soft landing path, the actual flow of physical silver tells a completely different, much more violent story. John A.G. has been digging through the overnight settlement data, and what we are seeing is a massive spike in exchange for physical, EFP, transactions, which is the clearest signal yet that the paper market is losing its grip on reality. The divergence between the paper spot price in New York and the physical price in the global hubs is reaching a breaking point that cannot be sustained much longer. John A.G. is looking at the premiums in the Asian markets this morning, and they are screaming that a shortage is no longer a future risk, but a present reality. When you see silver trading at a $5 premium in Shanghai, while the COMEX tries to pin the price down with naked short contracts, you are looking at a market that is fundamentally broken. This is financial warfare in its purest form, where the East is effectively draining the West of its strategic reserves, while the Western investor is being lulled to sleep by digital digits on a screen. Look at the open interest on the silver futures. We are seeing a massive buildup of long positions from commercial entities that usually don't take delivery. This suggests that industrial users, the big tech companies, and renewable energy giants are finally getting nervous. They are no longer trusting the supply chains to deliver the metal they need for their products, so they are coming directly to the exchange to demand physical bars. John A.G. has been tracking these whales, and their behavior has shifted from speculative trading to survival hoarding. This is the endgame scenario, where the physical supply simply vanishes into the vaults of those who have the deepest pockets and the most foresight. The registered inventory levels at the major warehouses have hit a new danger zone threshold today. We are now seeing the total available silver for delivery drop below the 30 million ounce mark, which is a drop in the bucket compared to the billions of ounces of paper claims that are circulating in the financial system. John A.G. wants you to understand the math. For every single ounce of silver sitting in a vault available for sale, there are over 100 people holding a piece of paper claiming they own that same ounce. It is a giant game of musical chairs, and the music is starting to skip. When the music stops, 99 out of 100 people are going to be left holding a worthless piece of paper while the price of the physical metal goes into price discovery mode. In Mexico, the situation is becoming even more critical for the global supply. Recent reports indicate that the government is considering a new tax on mineral exports to protect their domestic industrial needs. As the world's largest silver producer, any friction in Mexican exports is like a heart attack for the global silver market. John A.G. is monitoring the legislative sessions in Mexico City very closely, because if they decide to limit the flow of silver to the international markets, the COMEX will have no choice but to declare a force majeure. This isn't speculation. This is a logical conclusion based on the declining ore grades and the rising resource nationalism we are seeing across the globe. The banks are trying to play a very dangerous game by suppressing the price while the demand is at all-time highs. They are using high-frequency trading algorithms to smash the price every time it crosses a key moving average, but they are fighting a losing battle against the laws of physics. John A.G. sees the volume-weighted average price, VWAP, trending higher despite the price smashes, which means the smart money is buying every single dip the banks provide. They are basically subsidizing the acquisition of silver for the very people who are trying to break the bank's monopoly. It is a massive transfer of wealth happening in real time, and most people are too distracted by the stock market bubble to notice. We need to talk about the shadow inventory. For years, people believed there was a massive hoard of silver hidden away that could be dumped on the market to keep prices low. John A.G. has spent hours analyzing the Hunt Brothers era data versus today, and that shadow inventory is largely a myth. Most of that silver has already been consumed by the industrial sector over the last 2 decades. Silver is an evaporating metal. Once it is used in a cell phone, a missile, or a solar panel, it is rarely recycled because it is too expensive to recover. We are literally burning through the world's silver reserves at a rate that the mining industry cannot possibly match, even if they started 10 new mines tomorrow. The de-dollarization movement is adding a massive amount of fuel to this fire. As countries move away from the US dollar as a reserve currency, they are looking for hard assets to back their trade. Gold is the obvious choice, but silver is the strategic choice. John A.G. is seeing a huge increase in silver coin and bar demand from the Middle East and Southeast Asia. These aren't retail investors buying 1 or 2 coins. These are sovereign wealth funds and massive family offices that are moving hundreds of millions of dollars into physical silver. They know that in a world of fiat currency debasement, the metal that is essential for the digital age is the ultimate insurance policy. The short squeeze that everyone is waiting for is actually happening in slow motion. It isn't going to be a one-day event like a meme stock. It is going to be a multi-month grind where the shorts are slowly suffocated by the lack of physical metal. John AG is watching the delivery notices for the current month, and the number of stoppers, the entities taking delivery, is significantly higher than the historical average. This tells us that the longs are not being intimidated by the price volatility. They are standing their ground and demanding the bars. This is how a cornered market behaves right before it explodes to the upside. If you look at the gold to silver ratio again today, it is screaming that silver is the most undervalued asset on the planet. Even with gold hitting new highs, silver is still trading at a fraction of its 1980 or 2011 highs. John AG has always maintained that when silver finally breaks its multi-year resistance, it will move faster and further than gold. We are looking at a coiled spring that has been compressed for over a decade. The energy stored in this market is immense, and the catalyst for the release will be a default at one of the major exchanges. Once the market realizes that the paper silver is a lie, the rush for the exit will be unlike anything we have ever seen in the financial markets. The industrial users are the X factor in this equation. Companies like Tesla and Samsung cannot afford to stop production because they ran out of silver paste or silver wire. John AG expects that we will soon see these corporations bypass the COMEX altogether and go directly to the miners to sign offtake agreements. When the miners start selling their production directly to the end users, there will be nothing left for the futures market to trade. This would effectively kill the COMEX price discovery mechanism and move the market to a purely physical negotiated price. That is when we will see the true value of silver reflected in the market. People keep asking why the price isn't $50 or $100 already. The answer is simple. The banks are using leased silver to create the illusion of supply. They lease silver from central banks and sell it into the market, promising to pay it back later. John AG is investigating the lease rates, and they are starting to spike, which means it is becoming very expensive for banks to borrow metal. When the lease rates go high enough, the banks will be forced to buy back the silver they sold, creating a buying panic that will feed on itself. This is the hidden part of the silver market that most analysts ignore, but it is the key to understanding the coming explosion. The geopolitical tension in the Middle East is also playing a major role in today's tape. Any disruption to the shipping lanes affects the logistics of moving physical metal. John AG notes that insurance premiums for shipping gold and silver have doubled in the last month. This adds another layer of cost to the physical market that isn't reflected in the paper price. We are moving toward a world of balkanized markets, where the price of silver depends entirely on where you are and how much physical metal is actually in your local vault. The days of a single global spot price are coming to an end. I want to remind you that John AG sells nothing. I don't care if you buy silver, gold, or lead. My job is to give you the data that the financial advisors won't tell you because they don't understand the plumbing of the system. They are trained to look at price-to-earnings ratios and interest rate swaps, but they have no idea how a commodity delivery works. We are entering an era where counterparty risk is the only metric that matters. If you cannot touch it, you do not own it. That is the hard truth of the 2026 economy, and the silver market is the canary in the coal mine for the entire global financial system. All right, I'm wrapping this up. Keep your eyes on the closing cross today. If we hold the $31.50 level despite the massive selling pressure we saw at the open, it is a major victory for the physical bulls. John AG will be back later today with a final update on the Shanghai premium and how it is impacting the London afternoon fix. The drain is real, the data is undeniable, and the window for getting physical metal at these suppressed prices is closing faster than anyone realizes. Stay disciplined, trust the tape, and ignore the noise. All right, I'm out.